the Growing for Market podcast.
Crickets were reaching this limitation of what they could eat. They needed higher quality feed. And so some operations were even pulling from animal feed, dry animal feeds. And I thought that was really defeating. There's a level of efficiency, but black soldier fly were starting to get momentum and growth because of their ability to eat waste streams, true landfill diversions. And so that's where I thought that real circularity is critical. We look at now here in the United States, we have 100 million tons of edible food product going into landfills every year. Project Drawdown says that's the number one thing we can do to address climate change. Just get that organic produce out of landfills.
Hello and welcome to the Growing for Market podcast, where we talk about growing, marketing, and the business of growing vegetables and flowers for local markets like farmers markets, CSAs, farm stands, and local wholesaling. I'm Katie Kulla, your host and a writer for Growing for Market magazine. For 33 years, the magazine for flower and vegetable market farmers. If you're enjoying the podcast, just wait till you see the magazine. Go to growingformarket.com for more. Also, if you could give us a follow and a rating, it really helps other like-minded people find the podcast. And now let's take a minute to hear from our sponsors. It's with their generous support that we can bring you the podcast for free.
Looking for innovative packaging solutions to take your business to the next level? Look no further than Aru Company, your one-stop shop for all your packaging needs. Aru offers sustainable and comprehensive packaging solutions for the floral, produce, and specialty packaging industries, ensuring you receive high-quality products customized to your needs. Ready to elevate your herb packaging game? Their team combines extensive expertise with innovative materials to protect, enhance, and prolong the life of your herbs. You can choose from ventilation options like non-woven polypropylene and eco-friendly craft paper. Want a unique look? Their creative team can customize your sleeves with your brand's logo or design. Don't wait. Contact an Aru Company sales professional or visit shop.aru.com to give your herb packaging a fresh new look today. And for our Growing for Market listeners, we've got a special offer just for you. Use the code GFM15 during checkout to enjoy an exclusive 15% discount on the web shop. For more options, be sure to visit Aru Company at aru.com and discover the complete range of product offerings. Because when it comes to quality and innovation, Aru Company is the name you can trust.
Hello, everyone. Today I am talking with Pat Crowley of Chapul Farms, a unique operation located right here where I live in Yamhill County, Oregon. Usually I interview farmers who grow familiar vegetable crops or raise traditional livestock, but Chapul Farms does something very different. They design, build, and operate insect farms that rapidly convert organic waste into two valuable products: high-protein animal feed and nutrient-rich fertilizer. My guest, Pat, Chapul Farms founder and CEO, has over 12 years of experience in successful startup management of sustainable food and agriculture companies, and was also a 2014 Shark Tank awardee. I've been curious about Chapul Farms' work for several years, and I'm so excited to learn more today. Welcome, Pat. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me, Katie.
Yeah, I'm super excited. This is a very different topic than usual, so I'm excited to hear about it. So let's start at the beginning. I always like to hear people's farming stories, and I think our audience does too. Usually this is focused on some path that ends in developing a farm. Your story with agriculture and nature and such is different. We're looking at something different. So can you share with us how you became interested in agriculture, sustainable food systems, and insects specifically?
Yeah, it's been a long path, but I became interested in environmental issues and looked into permaculture. And I was always a fan of gardening. Kind of in high school and college years, I just looked at some of the global trajectories of some of the environmental trends, and it was very concerning, kind of early age. And so I just tried to focus on kind of where I could contribute. So I said I got into permaculture. I really like that model for just the long-term vision of how we interact and engage symbiotically with our food system as an ecosystem. And so I dove into water. I pursued a master's of science in watershed hydrology. So it's a watershed lens on how do we engage with our natural resources. And I really liked that longer term. How do we make this more symbiotic approach? And so I started at that more of the planning level. My first career job was with the Arizona Department of Water Resources. And I was doing long-term water modeling. And Arizona is representative of really the globe, about 80% of water going into agriculture. And so that was an area of like clear depletion of the current sources, just groundwater levels dropping. It's very concerning. This is something we absolutely need to address. So that's where kind of the broader agricultural kind of engagement was with that water planning level. And I did several really interesting projects with them. And one of them included quantifying all the water up on the Hopi Reservation in northeastern Arizona. And that is the longest continually inhabited settlement in all of North America, is on the Hopi Reservation. They've been practicing agriculture there for longer than anyone in North America, or one of them anyway. And so it's an incredibly harsh growing environment. So they're so supremely adaptive to their climate and changing conditions and high winds and droughts and prolonged droughts. And so I had that frame looking then at Western agriculture, where it's come over the last century in the United States, and really wanted to figure out how we could make it more look like a permaculture type ecosystem. And a major component of that permaculture is multiple trophic layers. And so insects from a water side are these indicator species in water system. The more biodiversity of macroinvertebrates you have, the healthier the water is, the healthier that ecosystem is. And so our agricultural system is just rapidly losing biodiversity, especially of insects. In fact, it's been more of a war against insects broadly. And so I thought that could be one of the most substantial impacts that I could have, was to change the tide of biodiversity loss with that trophic layer. And from what I saw, most of the decisions were at the agricultural level were really being made by markets and market decisions, market forces. And I think if the food system were up to farmers, it would look incredibly different.
Agreed. We talk about that a lot on this podcast. Like, what can we do? Because this is not ideal.
Yeah, these market forces are such drivers. And so I decided to start insects and incorporating them into agriculture at the market side first. If you build it, they will come, kind of supply chain development. Because there's classic examples of it going the other way. There's some market demand for something. It's so horribly inefficient to raise, and yet we do it because that market force is there. And so I thought it would get the most attention if I started with a human edible product, and spent a long time crafting a cultural introduction to those of us alive in the United States today. And so we had been practicing cricket farming in the U.S. for decades, multi-generational farms of crickets here in the U.S. And so I started working with them. And then we launched the first food product, nutritional food product with insects in it, packaged product. And yeah, it was a wild learning lesson. I had no experience in food. I think the first food label I looked at was when I had to start creating them. But I just fumbled my way through it. There was a lot of community college resources and free resources. And so just got into entrepreneurship that way. Listened to a lot of podcasts. That was foundational. A lot of TED Talks and online MBA courses that were just free. And yeah, so it started growing the insect. We started with a protein bar. I thought that was a good entry point, kind of modeled it after other foods like sushi. They had a very strategic crafted California roll that was this cultural introduction to this new food concept. And that was our kind of modern day California roll. And that's what took me onto Shark Tank. And so I presented that, and that was this opportunity to talk to almost 10 million people about our food system. So that was such a win to just be able to go on and talk to them. And then lo and behold, we get an investment from Mark Cuban on it. So that was this wild ride and journey that we went on. That was the very first investment we had ever secured at the company. It was just this bootstrapped thing before that. And I actually did a 2-week Colorado River rafting trip right before that airing. It was immediately going from that. So that was a 180-degree kind of
Yeah.
portal.
Very different
So,
worlds.
very different worlds. I worked on the Colorado River and that watershed management, and it was very dear to me, to say the least. And so I felt like I was representing something bigger. So it made that appearance in that sort of television deal, television ordeal, I should say. But that's really kind of what launched the company nationally and more internationally. There were some United Nations food and agriculture reports starting to come out about the viability of insects in the food system. And so there was starting momentum. And then we distributed to about 2,000 stores at our peak. And it dawned on me, it was kind of clear as over time, the limitation to that growth was really down in the supply chain. And that's where I wanted to have the impact anyway. There just wasn't enough for more participation in the food system. It wasn't as secure, as fragmented. And so that's when, along that path, black soldier fly started getting momentum. And I knew about it at the research level early on, but crickets were reaching this limitation of what they could eat. They needed higher quality feed. And so some operations were even pulling from animal feed, dry animal feeds. And I thought that was really defeating. There's a level of efficiency, but black soldier fly were starting to get momentum and growth because of their ability to eat waste streams, true landfill diversions. And so that's where I thought that real circularity is critical. We look at now here in the United States, we have 100 million tons of edible food product going into landfills every year. Project Drawdown says that's the number one thing we can do to address climate change. Just get that organic material out of landfills. So around 2018, that's when we stopped selling the food products and switched over to developing how do we get black soldier fly into this broader landscape of the food system and food processing system. And I joined this international project, which was so educational. It was in Indonesia to take large volumes of byproduct that are being burned and turn them into black soldier fly feed. And lessons learned from that and from raising the capital into that, I decided to then take on some project development here in the United States for where best these systems could be placed. So just looked at it from the watershed lens of where are we producing food? How is it being processed? Where are the biggest sources of waste? And I think that, I guess around 2020, the more we got into it, the more I got excited then about, I would say, like the third pillar of insect farming, which is their manure and the frass.
Yeah, what is frass exactly? I saw this on your website. It looks like a beautiful organic material, but what is it?
Yeah, I should explain what we do, I guess.
Well, we're getting the backstory. We're getting there. We're getting to what Chapul Farms does today. I mean, there were the crickets and let's eat crickets. And then that evolved because of realizing that's an interesting piece of the story that I didn't get when doing research about how you got from crickets to the black soldier fly. This idea that you needed to work even farther back in the food chain, it sounds like, to so that eventually you're working with something that can be more efficiently making use of what we have out there, which is this stream of food waste, which is cool. That is a problem.
Yeah. And when I made that transition, there was about 12 other companies doing it. And so there was an element of okay, mission accomplished, that this has momentum here. Now let's really build out the food part of it. But it was a deep education then into, I had this background in water and agriculture and just resource management. And then I had this incredible education of the food system and food distribution and how food gets to us and what food gets to us and all of these waste streams. And gosh, there's so many broken pieces to the underlying fabric of our civilization right now. And so that also helped informed, there's just massive consolidation happening and there's fewer and fewer decision makers and they're not making decisions for the broader good, I would say, and they're making shorter and shorter term decisions. And that consolidation is just this consistent theme, whether it's food production, agricultural processing. And that's just going in the wrong direction, I think, especially with that permaculture lens and needing biodiversity and diversity of ecosystems. That's the wrong direction. So yeah, I think it's important to how we're trying to design what we're doing. And so the black soldier fly, what we do now is we try to take that food waste, whatever's going into landfill, whatever's inefficient in the food system right now as it is, feed that to the black soldier fly, and they'll eat it in 7 days, process that material. They're kind of like I call them the regenerative farmers of soil, because as that material passes through, they have this incredible gut microbiome that's evolved symbiotically with plant microbiomes and soil microbiomes. And so at the end of that 7 days, there's just two things left in these trays that we raise them in: the larvae themselves, which we harvest for the protein side, but then all of their manure that's left over and their exoskeleton, exuviate, that's all called frass. So it's just wealth of microbiology. And so that's what I realized needed the most development, and I thought had both the biggest economic potential as well as the biggest environmental benefit potential.
And now let's take a minute to hear from our sponsors. It's with their generous support that we can bring you the podcast for free.
We know it's peak season. You're busy, but the messages you send now are what drive renewals later. That's why Farmhand is offering free, instant access to their farmer-built newsletter builder. No demos, no setup fees, just drop your logo, upload your list, and start sending farm-branded emails that boost sales, engage members, and save you hours each week. Get free access today at farmhand.partners/GFM. That's farmhand.partners/GFM. A well-built high tunnel is one of the smartest investments a small farm can make. It protects your crops, extends your season, and keeps income rolling in even through winter. Nifty Hoops builds complete Gothic high tunnels that are easy to install and built to last. Their easy, bolt-together construction makes setup straightforward and efficient, whether it's a small backyard hoop house or a dozen large production-scale high tunnels. Especially through their community build option, where professional builders work alongside your crew, family, or neighbors to build each structure, usually in a single day. Most growers go with Nifty's full setup: steel-framed end walls, roll-up sides, baseboards, double plastic with inflation, automated vents, and real doors, all priced to make the best choice the easy one. Nifty is a small crew out of Michigan using U.S. steel and working hands-on with growers across the country. They'll help evaluate your site, handle NRCS paperwork, and if they're building with you, they'll even float your cost share until after the build. Visit niftyhoops.com to learn more. Farm more seasons. Grow more food. Nifty Hoops.
And now, back to the show. Yeah, so let's talk about what this all looks like today. You're here in my county. What is Chapul Farms doing right now? It sounds like this has been a big evolution of figuring out really what's needed, right, on a societal level and where you can fit into that. So, yeah, what does it look like right now?
Yeah, so we set up a little research lab. We started out in McMinnville in 2018, and it was just a couple of us, and we were running our trials and studies for some big food system partners out of Texas A&M Laboratory and a couple of other U.S. entomology departments that we knew could run trials. And then the next step was just running some of those trials here. And so we set up with Ramsey McPhillips on his farm. And I think within a couple of weeks of moving to McMinnville, several people told me I had to meet Ramsey, and I think a couple people told Ramsey he needed to meet me. And of course, it was such a great interaction. For those that don't know, it's hard to define him, but one component of his life was addressing the landfill and its impact on ag lands. And it was this 20-year back and forth, if you call it, to which the landfill was shut down. And I really give Ramsey a lot of credit for then starting a positive force. Okay, here we can't just say no to things. We have to say yes to solutions. So he created Zero Waste McMinnville to really push zero waste initiatives here in McMinnville, Oregon. It was a great fit. And so he allowed us to set up a greenhouse on his property. And so we just basically started with running research trials as a lab. And then we started building that out. And then it became a proving grounds, if you will, for larger projects where we can address these bigger waste streams. And how do we build the markets? These are newer markets, both on the larva side and the frass side, the fertilizer side, and that takes time. And so we started doing a lot of that, developing market partners. We have a great feed partner here in McMinnville as well that distributes our larvae. So Buchanan Sellers, they long time family operated poultry and wild bird feed company, and a lot of their customers want to see more localized supply chains, and so that fit well. And a lot of them were already purchasing larvae. We have a significant market here for backyard chickens in the United States, but most of that comes from China, just brought over. But we can grow them right here with our waste. So it's just such a bioregional fit. And so what we're doing is slowly building organically our capabilities to be able to run these trials, demonstrate that this can be done at larger scale, partnering with international partners that are doing this at scales right now that can start addressing some of these streams and start producing market-worthy volumes of supply.
Yeah, so tell us about growing insects. I mean, you're talking to an audience of farmers, many of whom are always curious about either a new source of fertility, which I'm excited about as a grower myself, but also new crops. So what does the daily work look like for you all in terms of, I know it's not going to look like rows of crops. We're talking more something that could probably be done not even on a farm kind of operation, but what does it really look like to produce these flies and their larvae?
Yeah, it's a little bit of kind of greenhouse, vertical, indoor agriculture, a little bit of composting. I think that's kind of the general image you can look at it with, but more on the operational side. So we bring in their feeds, which are right now we're working with like the Oregon Food Bank. They receive a lot of expired produce already, or it goes expired, and then some other food processors that have a lot of waste byproduct. And the black soldier fly like a wet feed, so 75-ish% moisture, and so we get a lot of beverage fruit production as well. So brew doctor kombucha, a lot of these wet waste streams we have to dry out. Just kind of broadly speaking, that's a lot of energy, and we can take that if it's local, we can take that in the feedstock, and so effectively, from that background in water, it's a zero water footprint for their feed as it comes in, because that's the wastewater that we're getting that moisture with. So we bring those in. We just have kind of off-the-shelf agricultural equipment. So we have some grinders, and we'll grind that material, because ultimately that material is going to end up in a tray. And so we process that material, and then we have an idea of their nutritional need, especially from the macro side, but we try to create that combination of starches, proteins, fats. And so we'll store the processed material in like IBC totes right now, and we can ferment in there and store those. And then we create our feedstock, which is a ratio of nutritional needs for the insect. And it's like a food waste smoothie.
Okay. It sounds disgusting to me, but I'm sure it's so good to the flies.
Yes, I have never been inclined to view that as an actual smoothie. It's not, yeah.
So we make a yummy food waste smoothie.
Make a yummy smoothie, and then we dose it into these trays, and that will be the home for the insects for that part of their life cycle. So then maybe taking a step over to the life cycle side, we manage the whole life cycle. Yeah, we manage the whole life cycle of the fly. And so we breed them in cages, these fly cages where they're flying around. And this species doesn't eat at that phase of life. And so they live for a couple of days and breed. And then we do egg collection. So think of it as a chicken kind of laying operation. So we collect the eggs, and then we raise the egg. From egg, when they hatch, it's called the neonate. So we raise them in that juvenile setting. And then when they're at a juvenile, that's when we add them to that tray of food waste smoothie. And so that's the larva stage. And that's where we've gotten that down to a 7-day process. So they eat that material in 7 days in these trays. And then the trays just get dumped into a hopper. And then we have I bet a lot of the audience will know that we have a standard seed sifter, different mesh sizes, and it sifts the tray. And part of that stock becomes our brood stock and goes to lay the next generation. And so where we'll collect the eggs, and it's about 5%. 5% go back and repopulate for the next generation. So you're having this generational turnover rapidly. So it's this incredible platform for discovery as well, where we do some trials for a NSF research station we set up. I really like the model. It's Industry University Collaborative Research Center. So it's informed by what are the industry needs, and this one's specifically for insect agriculture. Yeah, the Center for Environmental Sustainability through Insect Agriculture. And there's about 20 of us, and we put in money, NSF matches that, and then we work with these universities to collaboratively decide the direction of research. And a lot of what we're doing is on that microbiome side. It's an incredible platform where I think it's, again, transitional periods. It's getting away from the in vitro discovery that we've done with these single interactions in a petri dish. This is this mechanism, this works, and then you throw it out in the ecosystem, and there's all sorts of other effects going on and other complicated things that we don't understand. But now you can look at in vivo research where, as humans, what we eat affects our DNA expression and all sorts of things. And so that diet-based gene expression happens in rapid time. And we're at this, I would say humans are at this rapid time of discovery of more of our microbiome. And that research center is really kind of shattering the walls between chemistry and biology, and you're able to look at these things at more of an ecosystem level. So anyway, we run a lot of those trials for that type of work at the NSF Center. It's really interesting stuff. And now we've purchased a site. We've run enough trials on the waste streams that are of scale, and we've found customers for the products, both on the frass side and the larva side. In the frass side, the fertilizer market specifically, that's been multiple years in development. So we worked with Chemeketa Community College, their wine studies program, and OSU, and had lots of interns out at Ramsey's farm and running trials. We just wanted to get it out into the market and get use of it as much as possible, because it was, every soil type is different, of course, and the applications of it are still kind of unknown, and we're in the dark about most appropriate timing. And we know we're trying to push beyond just macro management and PK management, because there's such a wealth there microbiologically.
Yeah. Can we pause and talk about that a little more, the frass? So let's tease that out. When we look at the normal array of inputs a farmer might be buying, where does this fit in? Is it fitting in like with feather and blood meal, or is it more like putting on a compost? Where are people trying it out and having success? Are they putting it in their soil mixes, or all of the above? I mean, do you have spec sheets too in terms of the breakdown? I hear what you're saying about how it's bigger than just, your breakdown, but it's a new product. So I'm trying to put it into my head.
Yep, we're working on just format too. And so the format dictates it. But right now, top dressing is mostly what we've done. And once we dry it out, so we dry it out down below at 10% and just a top dressing. It's also been pelletized, and then going into soil blends, I think, is where the best application is right now. But we're also, and I think this is some of the more exciting work we're doing, is working on liquid product. And so that would be more of a compost tea, if anyone's familiar with compost tea applications. But the product it's going into right now, it's basically a frass tea that goes into a humic acid for that liquid application. And I'm less familiar with the liquid applications, but we've been working with a local partner that develops organic liquid fertilizers and that type of tea work.
Nice.
But I use it in my garden, and I plant it kind of early, and then right before fruiting, I dress it as well. The timing also, what a lot of the work we're doing is in more IPM work in addressing pests. And so on the wine side, the vine mealybug, we're working on showing evidence of that pest management and pest mitigation, certain fungal mitigation, like in potatoes. So I guess the timing there is very dependent on the treatment side.
Okay. So it sounds like it's still very much in experiment to see where it can plug in, which is exciting, actually.
Yeah, we have enough use case we can provide recommended applications. That's what we have. It's a cup per square foot.
Yeah, great. Okay, and so then the other products are more back to this insects as protein, for the chicken feed. Can you tell us a little bit about because this is in some way kind of analogous to where you started. You were looking at crickets as a source of protein for humans, but now you're working with a different insect and thinking about a really sustainable protein source for animal feeds. So what is that looking like so far?
Yeah, it's in line with just getting that material back into biodiversity. So other species are very relevant here as well. And so we take a dried larva, and then that's sold primarily in the United States just as a treat for chickens. And I just heard recently that chickens are now the number 3 pet in America.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So cats, dogs, and chickens?
Cats, dogs, and chickens. And it's probably by a number. I know a lot of them are in urban areas, more and more. That's really where a lot of it goes. It's just direct to consumer. It's actually very similar on the frass side, where a lot of the benefits are in that microbiome and in the gut microbiome of the animal that it goes into. So a lot of immunological benefits for chickens. And we also sell into fish feed as well. And so a lot of fish farming relies on ocean caught fish meal in many cases.
Right. Which feels a little like robbing Peter, pay Paul, kind of like, oh.
Yeah, it does. And that's happening at a very large scale right now. Aquaculture is the fastest growing food production system on the planet right now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, a tremendous amount of development work happening in Southeast Asia and China. China has a big hand over global oceanic populations of these keystone species in the oceans. So the larva can replace, not one for one necessarily, but it's a leading candidate for replacing a chunk of that fish meal, or in some cases, all of it. But so that's where a lot of the global attention on insect production has happened. But we're working with some local trout farms that are using it, again, more on that health benefit side. And so at early stages of a trout and salmon, they're predominantly insectivores. And when they eat insects, they have much better gut functions, lower enteritis later in life, and things like that. And so that's where the applications are on the larva side right now, mostly trout, salmon, and chicken. But we're working with a local pig feed mill. He's great, and he produces swine feed for a lot of local farmers, and he's adding black soldier fly into his feed. So here in the United States, we have regulatory approval for pigs, chickens, all finfish now, and soon to be cat food, well, dog food. So a lot of the big dog food companies are interested in it as well.
That's awesome. So in the ideal end vision, this would be a type of farming that could convert what is currently like a waste stream problem into something that we need anyway for these other, like aquaculture, animal feed.
Animal feed, yep. It's just, I'm trying to plug these inefficiencies with life. How do we get more life into the system here?
Yeah. Well, and I love that idea of using that food waste stream. My family and I were just driving by a landfill that just got in Oregon, down by Corvallis, that just, much like the one in McMinnville, did not, as far as I understand, did not get some permits for expansion. And it's like stinky. They are not containing the methane production in the way that they are supposed to. And all that's organic matter that could be, feeding your flies. We shouldn't be putting organic matter into our landfills. So I love thinking about ways of turning a problem into a solution. It's very exciting to me. I'm sure it's very exciting to you. I'm sure that's why you do this work every day.
It's definitely exciting.
Yeah, I know. It's like we can have a conversation about it, and it sounds so exciting. And I'm sure the on-the-ground reality of making all those pieces fit is very complicated.
Yeah, especially when we're trying to just keep pushing it. There's so much pioneering at all levels, regulatory and market and capital, and especially when you're trying to fix too many problems at once. And the financial system. I love, like, Robin O'Brien, her line of, you can't fix a broken food system with a broken financial system. It's like, oh my gosh, like the more you learn, it's like,
yeah.
There's roadblocks that permaculture everywhere.
Yeah. This is the point in every podcast interview where the guests and I always like, okay, well, we'll do what we can, all of us out here just chipping away at something that's much, much bigger than any one of us.
That's it entirely. We do what we can.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, so what do you see? It sounds like you're involved in a lot of research, groundbreaking stuff, figuring out, like you said, even down to the level of regulations. What are you hoping for the future? What do you see as the future applications, both for the insects you're currently working with, just the whole field you're working in?
Yeah. So for us, our next step is developing a large commercial project, and here in McMinnville as well. And so we've done all the work showing where the waste streams are that we would use as our feed and the market partners and all of that. And so we have a site now. It was a former plastics manufacturing plant. So we'd like to develop this as a model for how this can be done, both at a municipal level as well as kind of at an agricultural level, where this can be bolt-on applications to where we're producing, so large beverage manufacturers, things like that. Where is that organic material concentrated right now, and address it almost like a point source pollution mitigation strategy. And so all of our focus is really kind of building out the demonstration that this can be done at a scale. Others have been doing it around the world. And so this will be a bit of a flagship for the United States, I think, for demonstrating the concept at a meaningful scale. And then, Oregon Department of Environmental Quality, they've been really evaluating how they can manage this organic material and divert it out of landfills. And so they created their hierarchy of where this should be going. And of course, reduction is the number one. Number two is how do we get more of that into the food system, especially feeding hungrier people. And then after that is feed for animals. And then well below that, you start going down. Then it's composting. Then it's turning it into methane production for gas. And so I think this can be a really viable strategy for the state to manage a lot of that organic streams and be a leader in this animal feed production and the fertilizer production. But there's applications all over the United States, Midwest. We've been working on some projects for more on the commodity side. Mind-blowing volumes of this material being produced. But at the same time, what really excites me, especially now, is really pushing that fertilizer side. I just heard that the number one U.S. agricultural export by volume, I should verify this.
Okay, well, we'll put an asterisk on this. Yeah, it's probably close to true, right?
Yeah, this is close to true, and I don't doubt it. But the number one agricultural export by volume is topsoil.
What? Explain. Is that through erosion, or is it just literally being moved?
Erosion, both wind-based, you just see that massive amounts blowing, and water-based erosion. So tremendous. My background in water quality, that's what we were managing, was that soil erosion management from ag lands. That, and then all the nitrogen that comes with it, and concentrating that nitrogen in our water bodies. So at any rate, whether that is entirely accurate, those would also be mind-blowing volumes, no doubt, of how much topsoil we lose. But I know that it's at significantly greater rate than it's being replenished, and that is a massive problem.
Oh, 100%. This valley where we live, you can just see that. This time of year, we're recording at the end of July, and so in Oregon, it hasn't really rained substantially in 2 months. And so anytime somebody goes out to work up a field right now, it's just clouds of dust. And then here where we live in the valley, I'm not going to call out any particular crops, but there are a few crops where they really try to keep the floor of, say, an orchard completely clear. So it involves flail mowing even below the surface of the soil in these dry months. And I mean, I don't know if you've encountered this, Pat, but I've had these moments where I'm driving down the highway and I can't actually see the road because there's a tractor next to the road doing this kind of agriculture work. And it's just like an opaque cloud of dust.
Yeah, that model has worked, but it's not a long-term strategy.
Right. Exactly. Long-term, that's our children and our grandchildren's future farming right there in that cloud of dust.
Decades ago, but now it's our problem.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's Yeah, no, nobody has a crystal ball, but when the trajectory is so blatantly obvious, it needs to be.
Yeah. So as you work, are you thinking about how what you're doing then could be replicated around the country? Is that part of the overall project, is replicability?
Yeah. And that's a balance. It's a significant balance because we're trying to do it very bioregionally. And I followed Carol Sanford, who passed away earlier this year, but the regenerative business model. And it's really, watershed lens of your business and what are the ecosystems that influence it in your upstream and your downstream and the humans and the life forms. And she calls them life sheds. And so that's really how we've tried to model our business here in McMinnville, integrating a lot of community stakeholders, as many as we can, that in as much capacity as possible. And that's hard to that's not a cookie cutter
Right.
that you just replicate. But through collaboration, I think a bioregional approach can absolutely be replicated at the scale and urgency with which we are addressing the challenges in front of us. So, there's the first principle of permaculture is like wait and observe, but we got to get going on some of this stuff here.
Yeah. Well, you said challenges. So what are some of the next big challenges and what steps are you taking to meet those with your operation?
Yeah, just so demonstrating that we can do it at scale. And so it's kind of a big part is just convincing all stakeholders to give this a shot, including like the financial side. And this is a big project, and we're bringing in a lot of equipment, and we're a startup company, and so we have to bring on capital partners. And so that's a big role that I play, is trying to bring in the right capital partners that do have a longer term vision, and it's about the primary qualifier. Yeah, longer term vision for the benefits, but it is more of a rarity than very short sighted financial partners. So yeah, raising the capital for it. Luckily, we have been finding that rarity in those gems of investors that are getting behind it on the private side and the debt side. We funded this building with Steward Regenerative Finance. And that was so cool to be signing my loan documents that had like mandates for regenerative principles. I was like, this is great.
Yeah, that goes back to what you're talking about earlier, like a broken financial system. Like there's people out there trying to steer things in useful directions. It's heartening.
Yeah, they're everywhere. You just have to find our communities. So that's a big part. And then we're working with a lot of international partners on what's working around the world right now. And so there's a system that's fairly kind of low tech to do exactly what we're doing. We've raised more than 100 generations of the larvae. We're a team of 12 now. And that just come up, and it will be a challenge to scale it up. But like I said, it's being done with people we're in very close communication with, and we're very influential in the design of what we're doing here. And we really tried to think about best community needs for the project in general. That's our focus, is building this project here.
Well, I'm excited to watch it grow since I'm in the area. So, okay, last kind of question for you before we wrap up. I know you're not a typical farm, although I think there's a lot of application and crossover, both in terms of principles and some even of the practices. But our audience is mostly direct market farmers or people who want to be. And I'm always curious about tips and tricks that we can share. Is there any like really awesome or best thing that you and your team have done that you think you want to share with our audience? Like it could be a tool or an approach or some kind of decision you made. How has it helped you?
Actually, why don't I just stay on Steward Regenerative Finance?
Yeah, tell us more. That sounded cool.
Yeah, their background, these brothers that had started Fundrise, and it's a crowdsourced debt program. That one's for commercial real estate development. And they were trying to solve this problem that what people want built in their communities isn't financeable by institutional capital. And so it was this, and everyday people don't have access to these market rates for development projects. And so he created this financial platform for people to invest in projects being built in their community. And wildly successful in that. They've lent some $6 billion. But then family background in agriculture, they saw that same thing happen in regenerative agriculture specifically. These projects are here. Farmers want to grow it. Maybe there's not a processing infrastructure for it, or maybe there's this need out there. It just doesn't qualify for institutional capital. And so Steward Regenerative Finance is this crowd-based debt platform where if you want to purchase land as a farmer, if you want to purchase some equipment, you can start a campaign. You have to have some regenerative principle associated with it, or they have to view it as heading in the direction of regeneration. But then you can approach them and launch a campaign, and they'll send it out to their network. And for us, it's an incredibly activated network where you can put in as little as $100 to a project. But we launched our project, and it was a public campaign. I could send you the link, but it was more than $2 million. And we raised it in less than an hour.
What? Okay, all the farmers are very much listening now. That's amazing. You're a special kind of project. I'm sure you stood out. But still, that's a powerful platform.
It's a powerful platform with people that want to support regenerative agriculture projects. Yeah, no. So I think that may be one of the more useful things I could send out there. And if anyone has any questions on it, please don't hesitate to reach out if you're trying to look for capital for something that is a new market. I guess we need a new market.
Yeah. Well, and with the sudden changes in federal grants, having these third parties, private parties that are going to help people in the industry might be more important than ever over the next couple of years.
Yeah. Let's do it ourselves.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Well, glad I asked. That's a great one. Great tip. Is there anything else you want to share with our audience of market farmers? Like anything else you want to put out there?
Yeah. Maybe I'll talk about a little bit of our work at Attainable Regenerative Laboratories.
Okay.
We kind of fit in farming applications in specific piece of the puzzle, but we're trying to address more of those pieces of the puzzle with a nonprofit we call Attainable that Ramsey created as well. And so that's in part managing some of his land for several regenerative agriculture projects. There's a dry land permaculture kind of medicinal farm there now. And then there's Soil Food Web has done some work with their composting out there. Edible Landscape, Yamhill County is going to be doing some work out there with the edible food forest. There's another manure to fertilizer project coming in, working with kind of solar powered energy management for on farm. So there's a lot of really interesting projects happening and one of my favorite ones that is happening right now is we're trying to do the monarch effect is what we're calling it, to work with some of these landfills to critical monarch habitat. And there's a lot of work happening right now. A lot of work in California happening right now around monarch habitat restoration, working with agricultural communities to create those ecosystem buffers and those pollinator habitat buffers and things like that. But Ramsey worked out a series of landfills all along the monarch migratory pathway, the Western Corridor, and they're facing extinction because of that habitat loss. But maybe we can go in the other direction for change the tide on this mass extinction event here. So if anyone is interested in attainablelabs.com, I think, or maybe it's .org, we love to work with anyone who wants to be a part of it.
Yeah. Oh, I love that image of a string of landfills just blooming in milkweed or other, important habitat plants. That's amazing.
Yeah. And there's a lot of stakeholders now. Recology is doing some work with the milkweed starts. And so there's a lot of great partners coming in on this.
I love it. Okay. Well, you've provided us some hopeful thoughts today, Pat, and lots to think about, very different kind of stuff that you're working on. I appreciate it. How can people find you or Chapul Farms to connect further if they want to find out more about any of this? What's the best way to find you?
chapulfarms.com. We have a online forum if you're interested in whatever it is. Drop us a line and we respond to everything. So,
okay. Well, thanks so much, Pat. It was so great to finally get to meet you and hear about all the cool things you all are experimenting with. And I wish you the best.
Yeah, thank you so much, Katie. I really appreciate it. And feel free to come on out to the farm for a visit anytime.
Okay, I'll have to do that one of these days.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Katie.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Growing for Market podcast. If you've been enjoying the show, please consider giving us a follow and a rating or review. It really helps others find the podcast. For more tips and information from farmer to farmer, check out our magazine at growingformarket.com. Whether you're a commercial grower or just want to grow like one, subscribe to Growing for Market magazine for the nitty-gritty of growing, marketing, and the business of market farming. We publish 10 issues per year with articles written by experienced farmers on topics ranging from tools and techniques to farm business operations and marketing. If you've been listening to the Growing for Market podcast and you haven't yet checked out Growing for Market magazine, we've made a change so you can try the magazine for free. We've added a free month to the beginning of all first-time subscriptions. Try out the digital or paper magazine, and if it's not for you, cancel within 28 days and you'll never get billed. With digital subscriptions starting at just $39 per year, you get a year of the magazine, plus over 150 back issues from the last 15 years. Head on over to growingformarket.com and subscribe today to benefit from over 3 decades of writing by farmers, for farmers, and Growing for Market magazine.